in the prime of his youth, with the wisdom of a prophet, his love pure, his destiny glorious, wedding he called his martyrdom. Gentle was his heart, his vision victorious. Sobuhun Quddúson Rabbano Varabba Maloekete Varu. Sobuhun Quddúson Rabbano Varabba Maloekete Varu. The most handsome man in Báb'í was known to some as Quddús, a love burning in his heart for his holiness, the Bábí, who was the primal point, promised from the past, Quddús, the pure one, meant to be the last. Sobuhun Quddúson Rabbano Varabba Maloekete Varu. Sobuhun Quddúson Rabbano Varabba Maloekete Varu. First and last, just like one soul, all the prophecies as they were told, all the bloodshed for one goal, paved the way for the glory of this day. Sobuhun Quddúson Rabbano Varabba Maloekete Varu. Sobuhun Quddúson Rabbano Varabba Maloekete Varu. On the tragic and gloomy day, you could hear his mother say, "Son, I've dreamt I will live to see your wedding this day to be." Quddús answered while dragged in chains, stripped of his garment, his body marked with pains. Patience, O mother, you will live to see my beloved and I union on this wedding day to be. Sobuhun Quddúson Rabbano Varabba Maloekete Varu. Sobuhun Quddúson Rabbano Varabba Maloekete Varu.
Many of the followers of the Báb journeyed with Mullah Hussein to Karbala, the site of the martyrdom of Imam Hussein. They stopped at the shrine of Sheikh Tabarsi. The sheikh had been one of the transmitters of the traditions ascribed to the imams of the faith. It was here, in the area of Mazen-Daron, that a fort was to be constructed for the defense of the Báb'ís against the attacks by those who felt threatened by this new faith. In the course of building the fort of Tabarsi, the followers were continuously harassed by the people of the neighboring villages. Though well equipped beyond the capability of this small group of believers, every attack ended in failure and shame for the enemy. Undeterred by the fierceness of their repeated onsets, the followers of the Báb valiantly withstood their assaults until they had succeeded in subjugating temporarily the forces which had hemmed them in on every side. The work on the fort had scarcely been completed when news arrived that Baha'u'llah would visit these fearless companions. The news brought joy to the heart of Mullah Hussein, who hastened to prepare for the arrival of the beloved visitor. As soon as he saw Baha'u'llah approach, he rushed forward, tenderly embraced him, and conducted him to the place of honor. Feelings of rapturous delight filled the heart of Mullah Hussein. Wrapped in admiration and love as he gazed upon Baha'u'llah, Mullah Hussein forgot about everyone else, left standing a long time waiting for permission to be seated. Baha'u'llah, in the course of that visit, inspected the fort and expressed satisfaction with the work that had been completed. He explained in detail matters that were vital to the welfare and safety of his companions and added one further requirement.
The one thing this fort and company require is the presence of Quddús. His association with this company would render it complete and perfect.
As Baha'u'llah departed, he enjoined the believers of the faith to be patient and resigned to the will of the Almighty.
If it be His will, we shall once again visit you at this same spot and shall lend you our assistance. You have been chosen of God to be the vanguard of His host and the establishers of His faith. His host verily will conquer, whatever may befall. Victory is yours, a victory which is complete and certain.
Mullah Hussein set out immediately to carry out the instructions he had received for freeing Quddús from his incarceration in Sari, and to bring him to the fort. Mullah Hussein then admonished his companions to treat Quddús with great reverence.
As to myself, you must consider me as his lowly servant. You should forsake your desires and cling to his will and pleasure. The glory and authority with which he has been invested must needs be duly recognized by even the most insignificant of his companions.
The erudite Quddús was born in Barfurush, a small distance from Sheikh Tabarsi. He lost his mother at a very early age and was mostly cared for by a stepmother. His father also died when he was a young boy. By the age of 22, when he recognized the faith of the Báb, Quddús was considered to be a man of extraordinary beauty and wisdom. His numerous writings and commentaries on various Quranic surahs and Shiite traditions numbered a few volumes. He wrote roughly 30,000 verses just on the letter Sad of the word Samad, which means eternal. His position as a leader of thought and provocative action to prepare the populace for the coming of the Promised One was well known throughout the region. His station can be compared to John the Baptist of the Christian religion and Salman of the Islamic revelation. Baha'u'llah, in the tablet of Kulei Ta'am, tablet of all food, refers to the station of Quddús in reference to the Quranic verse. All food was allowed to the children of Israel, except what Israel made unlawful for itself. As Quddús drew near to the fort of Tabarsi, Mullah Hussein and about 100 companions carrying lighted candles hastened to meet him. The darkness of the night was dispelled by the radiance shed by those joyous hearts as they marched forth to meet a beloved. As the company slowly made its way towards the fort, there broke forth a hymn of glorification and praise. Mullah Hussein raised the glad refrain, to which the entire company responded. Holy, holy, the Lord our God, the Lord of the angels and the Spirit. The forest of Mazandaran echoed to the sound of their acclamations. In this manner they reached the shrine of Sheikh Tabarsi. These were the first words that fell from the lips of Quddús after he had dismounted his steed and leaned against the shrine.
The Baqiyatullah will be best for you if ye are of those who believe.
By this utterance was fulfilled the prophecy of Muhammad as recorded in the following tradition. And when the Mahdi is made manifest, he shall lean his back against the Kaaba, and shall address to the 313 followers who have grouped around him these words: The Baqiyatullah will be best for you if ye are of those who believe. By Baqiyatullah, which means remnant of God, Quddús meant none other than Baha'u'llah, a prophetic term. Its meaning lay hidden until later revealed. Although the Báb never met Baha'u'llah on this earth, as manifestations sharing the same spirit, the Báb communicated with Baha'u'llah. Though endowed with a potency far greater than any founder of the past religions, the Báb humbly expressed the superiority of a mightier revelation as he addressed Baha'u'llah, saying, Ya Baqiyatullah,
قد فديت بكلي لك ورزيت السب في سبيلك وما تمنيت إلا القتل في محبتك وكفى بالله العليا مؤتسما قديما وكفى بالله شاهدا ووكيلا.
O thou remnant of God, I have sacrificed myself wholly for thee. I have accepted curses for thy sake, and have yearned for naught but martyrdom in the path of thy love. Sufficient witness unto me is God, the exalted, the protector, the ancient of days.
Through the divine spirit they shared, Baha'u'llah seemingly answered the Bab, saying,
يا قرة العين قد أحزنني كلامك في هذا الجواب الأكبر ولا الحكم إلا الله ولا الأمر إلا من الله ولأمري إنك المحبوب لدى الحق والخلق ولا حول إلا بالله وكفى بالله مولاك منتقما على الحق بالحق بالله شديدا.
O Garotolain, the words thou hast uttered in this momentous call have grieved me bitterly. However, the irrevocable decision resteth with none but God, and the decree proceedeth from none save him alone. By my life, thou art the well-beloved in the sight of God and his creation. Verily, there is no power except in God, and sufficient witness unto me is your Lord, who is, in very truth, the omnipotent avenger.
While at Sheikh Tabarsi, Quddús charged Mullah Hussein to ascertain the number of the assembled companions. One by one he counted them, 312 in all. He was about to report the number to Quddús when a youth, who had hastened all the way on foot from Bar Farouche, suddenly rushed into the fort. Seizing the hem of the garment of Mullah Hussein, the youth pleaded to be enrolled among the companions and to be allowed to lay down his life whenever required in the path of the beloved. His wish was readily granted. When Quddús was informed that the number of the companions totaled 313, he remarked,
"Whatever the tongue of the prophet of God has spoken concerning the promised one must needs be fulfilled, that thereby his testimony may be complete in the eyes of those divines who esteem themselves as the sole interpreters of the law and traditions of Islam. Through them will the people recognize the truth and acknowledge the fulfillment of these traditions."
On the day of Nowruz in the year 1265 AH, Quddús alluded in a written message to his companions to the approach of such trials as would bring in their wake the martyrdom of a considerable number of his friends. A few days later, several military units joined forces. Under Prince Mehdi Koli Mirza, they prepared an attack. They began by constructing a series of trenches and barricades in the immediate vicinity of the fort. 9 days later, the joint forces opened fire on the fort. While the bombardment was in progress, Quddús emerged from his room and walked to the center of the fort. His face was wreathed in smiles, and his demeanor breathed forth the utmost tranquility. As a cannonball was fired into the fort and fell before him, Quddús rolled it with his foot and remarked,
"How utterly unaware are these boastful aggressors of the power of God's avenging wrath. Have they forgotten that a creature as insignificant as the gnat was capable of extinguishing the life of the all-powerful Nimrod? Have they not heard that the roaring of the tempest was sufficient to destroy the people of Ad and Samud and to annihilate their forces? Seek they to intimidate the heroes of God, in whose sigh the pomp of royalty is but an empty shadow, with such contemptible evidences of their cruelty?"
As he turned to his friends, Quddús went on to say,
"You are those same companions of whom Muhammad, the apostle of God, has thus spoken.
Oh, how I long to behold the countenance of my brethren who will appear in the end of the world. Blessed are they. Greater is their blessedness than ours."
Then Quddús counseled his friends,
"Beware lest you allow the encroachments of self and desire to impair so glorious a station. Fear not the threats of the wicked, neither be dismayed by the clamor of the ungodly. Each one of you has his appointed hour, and when that time is come, neither the assaults of your enemy nor the endeavors of your friends will be able either to retard or to advance that hour. If the powers of the earth league themselves against you, they will be powerless ere that hour strikes, to lessen by one jot or tittle the span of your life. Should you allow your hearts to be agitated for but one moment by the booming of these guns which, with increasing violence, will continue to shower their shot upon this fort, you will have cast yourselves out of the stronghold of divine protection."
so powerful an appeal could not fail to breathe confidence into the hearts of the companions. After a few days, the army of the enemy was surprised to find that the booming of their guns had failed to silence the voice of prayer and the acclamations of joy from inside the fort. Instead of the unconditional surrender which they expected, the call of the muazzin, the chanting of the verses of the Quran, and the chorus of gladsome voices intoning hymns of thanksgiving and praise reached their ears without ceasing.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasul.
The response of Quddús to Mehdi Qoli Mirza, which is his last tablet.
Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. بسم الله الکریم. نواب اشرف والا ایده الله تعالی را مساعدت می دهد که رقعه والا در این بقعه بلا وارد شد. خدای احد واحد شاهد است که این بینوایان نهایت نفرت و کراهت را از خصومت داریم تا چه رسد به مجادله و مقاتله، آن هم با اعلی حضرت شهریاری.
His Eminence Nawab, may God assist him. The letter of His Eminence reached this calamitous spot. God, beside whom there is none other, is a witness in His unity that these indignant ones abhor enmity to the utmost degree, much less contention against and fighting with His Majesty the King.
کسانی در صدد قتال و نزاع با دوست درآیند که در سر هوای سلطنت و سروری داشته باشند، نه اشخاصی مثل این طایفه که در این محوطه به ورطه بلا افتاده اند و از فرط عبودیت و بندگی پشت پا بر مقتدایی و
Quarreling against the government and killing is done by those who have the goal of leadership and ruling in their minds, not the members of this group who have in this place fallen into the abyss of calamity. Driven by their servitude, have recalcitrated against their positions of leadership and have abandoned their pulpits and altars. They have given up all their worldly desires and stepped into the world of solitude. According to our religious duty, we announce the manifestation of the promised Hujjat to the distinguished leaders of religion who have been awaiting for 1,000 years for the hastening of his appearance. We, likewise, conveyed his verses and clarifications to them. They, however, like the leaders of past religions, resorted to some superstitious beliefs and renounced the obvious proof. Beside depriving themselves, they began misinforming people and depriving everyone of this absolute bounty. Presently, they remain expectant and astonished in the wilderness of bewilderment and error. Subhanallah, اختلاف و اشتباه کاری کار را به جایی رسانده که توپ و تفنگ ممیز حق و باطل شده، ولی توپچی و سرباز خود را ممیز و مکلف نمی داند. علمای اعلام باید قدم رنج دارند و از عهده تشخیص و تمییز برآیند. اگر به شؤون علمیه و براهین عقلیه حل مشاکل به امتیاز
Glory be to God. Disputation and misrepresentation has degraded the situation to such a degree that rifle and cannon have become the distinguishing factor between truth and falsehood, while soldiers are in no position to judge. The distinguished scholars must take the painstaking step of determination and verification. If the issue is resolved by scientific means and intellectual proofs, that is fine. If not, we will conduct mubahala and take God as the judge. If mubahala does not prove sufficient, we will make a fire and walk through it. Thus the fraudulent shall be put to shame. If they do not agree with any of these, we have no rancor.
باز هم با کسی کینه نداریم و ضغینه نورزیم.
جمعی هستیم مظلوم و در این بیابان گرفتار، صدمات فراوان دیده و زحمات بی پایان کشیده ای. راه بدهید تا از این ملک سفر کنیم و به جانب عتبات عالیات برویم. این مملکت را به شما و علما واگذاریم و هرگاه راه ندهید و چاره را از 4 جهت مسدود نمایید و مقصود شما فقط کشتن این مظلومان باد.
We are a wronged group, captured in this wilderness, who have experienced much hardship and injury. Allow us to leave this land and go to the holy shrines, leaving this country to you and the learned. When you do not grant us permission to leave, closing our path from 4 directions with the purpose of murdering these wronged ones, then we must defend ourselves. Even though we are well aware that the consequence of our defense would be drinking the wine of martyrdom, yet we are courageously ready for this martyrdom in order to demonstrate the truth of our belief to the peoples of the world.
بر عالمیان معلوم سازی.
These companions who are besieged in this fortress have surrendered their souls, belongings, and their existence. having attained the station of certitude in the manifestation of Hujjat. They have seen the unseen and heard that which was not heard before. And they have become the confidants of the secret of the conquerors on high. Through their courage and attraction, they have broken the claim of their attachment and have united with the world of truth. Now they are awaiting whatever God destines for them.
کی قلم را زهره باشد تا به سر برنویسد بر صحائف زان خبر زان که وصف این سخن زان برتر است که بدن بر وی تواند برد دست
How will the pen in this day have the courage to recount those events on a page? Then it is better to orate the story, for the fingers would misrepresent the glory. Any just person would readily realize that not everyone is capable of giving up one's life and all that which exists. In this terrible process, the sincere ones are in utmost danger. Regardless, these servants, trusting in God, have stepped into this desert of perdition and fearsome valley. They have accepted all calamities and shared self-sacrifice in the straight path of God. There is no power except God's, the Most High, the Most Great.
Unable to defeat this small group of believers, Prince Mehdi Qoli Mirza, leader of the enemy forces, resorted to trickery and deceit to lure them out. The prince sent a messenger to the fort, inviting its inhabitants to come out, assuring them safe passage, and expressed his desire to arrive at a peaceful settlement of the issues outstanding between them. In response, Quddús sent 2 representatives to the prince, informing him of his readiness to accede to his wish. The prince took a copy of the Quran and wrote on the margin of the opening surah,
I swear by this most holy book, by the righteousness of God who has revealed it, and the mission of him who was inspired with its verses, that I cherish no other purpose than to promote peace and friendliness between us. Come forth from your stronghold, and rest assured that no hand will be stretched forth against you. You yourself and your companions, I solemnly declare, are under the sheltering protection of the Almighty, of Muhammad, his prophet, and of Nasruddin Shah, our sovereign. I pledge my honor that no man, either in this army or in this neighborhood, will ever attempt to assail you. The malediction of God, the omnipotent avenger, rest upon me if in my heart I cherish any other desire than that which I have stated.
Upon receiving the Koran from the hand of his messenger, Quddús kissed it reverently and said,
O our Lord, decide between us and between our people with truth, for the best to decide art thou.
Quddús then bade his companions to prepare themselves to leave the fort, and told them,
By our response to their invitation, we shall enable them to demonstrate the sincerity of their intentions.
Quddús attired his head with the green turban which the Báb had sent to him. Quddús and some of his companions mounted their horses, while others marched on foot outside of the fort to the camp of the enemy. Once outside of the walls of the fort, most of the companions suffered a swift martyrdom. Others were made captives and eventually sold as slaves. Few of these unfortunate victims survived this heroic struggle. Any who escaped the bullets were killed by the swords of officers and the spears of their men. Still others were blown from the mouths of cannons and consigned to the flames. In the very throes of death, these unconquerable heroes were still heard to utter the words, Holy, holy, O Lord our God, Lord of the angels and the Spirit.
Subuhun Quddusun Subuhun Quddusun Rabbuna Rabbul Malaikati
Quddús was taken to Barfarouche by the prince and subjected to the basest passions of the agitated mob, which had been riled and aroused by corrupt religious leaders who felt threatened by Quddús and his cause. The revengeful multitude perpetrated upon the body of their victim acts of such atrocious cruelty as no pen can describe. Quddús suffered such a death as even Jesus had not faced in the hour of his greatest agony. Stripped of his clothes, Quddús was paraded through the streets, befouled, loaded with chains, scorned by the entire population of the town, assailed with knives and axes, his body pierced and mutilated, and eventually delivered into the flames. Amidst his torments, Quddús was heard whispering forgiveness to his foes.
Forgive, O my God, the trespasses of this people. Deal with them in thy mercy, for they know not what we have already discovered and cherish. I have striven to show them the path that leads to their salvation. Behold how they have risen to overwhelm and kill me. Show them, O God, the way of truth, and turn their ignorance into faith.
In the prime of his youth, with the wisdom of a prophet, his love pure, his destiny glorious. Wedding he called his martyrdom. Gentle was his heart, his vision victorious. The most handsome man in Barfurush was known to some as Quddús. A love burning in his heart for his holiness, the Bábí, who was the primal point, promised from the past, Quddús, the pure one, meant to be the last. Sobuhon Quddúson Rabbano Varabban Maloikata Valru. Sobuhon Quddúson Rabbano Varabban Maloikata Valru. On the tragic and gloomy day, you could hear his mother say, "Son, I've dreamt I will live to see your wedding this day to be." Quddús answered, while dragged in chains, stripped of his garment, his body marked with pains. "Patience, O mother, you will live to see my beloved and I union on this wedding day to be." Sobuhon Quddúson Rabbano Varabban Maloikata Varu. Sobuhon Quddúson Rabbano Varabban Maloikata.
Overcome with grief, the Báb, who was confined in Sherik, was unable for a period of 6 months either to write or to dictate. The voice of revelation had been silenced and his pen stilled. How deeply he mourned his loss.